Accidental politics.
Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. Listen to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Got Professor Wham here with us.
Hey.
Maxim Furek. Did I say that correctly? Maxim
You
Furek?
did not, Jeffrey. You did not.
It's
we're starting off. It's Furek. Okay.
Furek. Okay.
Now we're good. Okay.
So my Georgia makes me stupid sometimes. But here we go. It's great to have you back.
Yeah.
And we love the Bigfoot show. Very cool.
Yeah, I was on your program, Jeffrey, Friday, May the 23rd. Okay, so that was 2025. Yeah, so May, about 3 months ago. So yeah, that was fun.
This book, Cold Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. And when's your next one coming out? Was that Paranormal Apocalypse? Yeah,
actually, it's kind of crazy, but I don't know. Something's channeling through me. Maybe Professor Wham could figure it out. But I mean, I've been quite prolific. So Paranormal Apocalypse is coming out, and that'll be the end of September. And that's what the cover is going to look like. That's a gray, just as a Grim Reaper. And is this how it ends? So I talk about fear. I talk about H.P. Lovecraft said that fear is the most basic emotion of man, and fear of the unknown is the most powerful. So I talk about all the ways that we are being kept in fear, whether through religion, political groups, or society, and everybody's running scared. And that's pretty much what I talk about. And then the other one, and stop me if I'm getting too obnoxious, but this is coming out in the end of August, and it's the Schmerl haunting when Ed and Lorraine came to town. And this is going to be published by Anxiety Press, but The Conjuring Last Rites is coming out September 5th. So my book piggybacks on that hysteria, and I'm hoping I'm going to do well with the Schmerl haunting, which was actually in my backyard. And I knew the Warrens. They were from Monroe, Connecticut. So that's my story. But I had a personal a connection with that. And if I may, since I'm talking about that,
sure.
This is bizarre, and give me some feedback on this. I went to see Annabelle, the Cursed Doll, and Annabelle was on the Devils on the Run tour. And what they did was, what's his name? Tony Spira, that was Ed and Lorraine's son-in-law, took Annabelle out on the road in 2025. So in May in 2025, he took her to San Antonio, to New Orleans, to West Virginia, and to Gettysburg. When Annabelle was in New Orleans, there was the plantation fire and the jailbreak and something else. And it was during that 3-day period. So some people thought that Annabelle, the demonic energies of Annabelle caused this. Okay, maybe not. On July the 11th, Friday, I went to Gettysburg to see Annabelle the doll. I met Dan Rivera. That was on the 11th. Dan was there in Gettysburg, the 11th, 12th, and 13th. He gave me his phone number. I was supposed to do an interview with Dan on Monday, the 14th. And you know what happened, correct? Dan died Sunday, the night before I was supposed to interview him. So I was probably one of the last paranormal researchers to talk to him. I believe the official word is that it was natural causes. People that I know in the paranormal community are saying no, that there were some kind of demonic energies manifesting there, that Tony Spira never should have taken Annabelle out of the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, should have kept Annabelle there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what this is. All I know is that I got caught up in this mix. And I mean, I don't know how he died. I think it was natural causes. I think it was a coincidence, but a lot of other people are saying, no, it's something other than that. It's something of the demonic. So again, I don't know.
And he passed away before your interview?
Correct. Yeah, I was supposed to interview him on Monday, July the 14th. Dan Rivera died on Sunday, July the 13th. correct.
We had that one thing I may have told you. A guy named Jim Willis was coming on for an afterlife book on a Friday, and he passed away before his show the same day. And then it was kind of weird because then his publisher came on, the editor, who he had a book that was supposed to come out called Lost Treasures and Loot or something like that. So we did a whole memorial show for him. And I didn't even really know him. I just met him through that. I didn't really know him that well, but it was strange that he passed away right before, the show, and the show was on the afterlife.
Oh, wow.
and then he did the Lost Treasures book. So we did a little show, to do a memorial for him. And then now he did a Bigfoot book, and a guy named Michael Kowalski that did American Ghost Stories from Visible Ink Press. He's coming on, so it's like his spirit is living on through our show.
Yeah, I know. What's Visible Ink Press? I think I've heard of them. Yeah.
Roger Janacki.
Yeah. Well, and then friends of Dan Rivera are saying, let's not talk about this. Let's let his family grieve. Well, the family's going to grieve. They're going to find their own way to go and bring closure and try to understand this thing. But in the meantime, there's people saying, don't take Annabelle out on tour anymore. There could be dangers when you're relocating these demonic energies. And I'll say this, when in Gettysburg, Annabelle was in this maybe 5 foot tall wooden structure, and it was infused with holy water and holy oil. It had 3 crucifixes, three for the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Had the Lord's Prayer in the back. The priest blessed it. It was supposed to be, supposed to keep the demon inside. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I looked into the eyes of Annabelle, which was a Raggedy Ann doll, and I looked for something. And I don't have any kind of abilities, nothing at all, nothing, zero. But I couldn't see anything that looked demonic, looked scary, looked frightening, looked anything. It was just a Raggedy Ann doll as far as I was concerned. So
I know there was this one show on Amazon, and I can't remember the name of it, but BuzzFeed, like Paranormal, something to do with BuzzFeed. But they went to go visit that doll, and they were just horribly obnoxious and rude, and it didn't whack them. But I'm not doubting that it can do that. But I'm just saying that show, they were just like torturing that doll, being stupid. It was like, y'all are stupid. Yeah.
Well, why mess with something like that? I don't know. A lot of my friends warn me not to get too close to the demonic, and I think I view it as more of as a student, as an academic, not as a person that, I don't do seances or Ouija boards or any of that, because that kind of scares me. I think that could be a conduit. And what do you think, Professor? A conduit to maybe evil energies, Ouija board?
I personally, I see this on 2 levels. On one level, and I guess you would say the most expansive level, and this is based on, I am a person who does have a spiritual practice. Okay. So I'm not an agnostic or anything like that, but, on a more expansive level, there's a part of me that believes, and this has been my personal experience, that evil on a large level really doesn't exist. But at our level, in our arena, in our focus reality, it from a practical standpoint, it might, and that has more to do with people than it does with entities that are independent of us. So, without necessarily doubting the possibility that there might be some semi-incarnate entities, and I'm thinking about my late friend Paul Eno and some of the stuff that he used to. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but some of the stuff that he used to, because he worked for the Warrens at one point.
Okay.
So he was a priest that was sort of training under them in a sense. And that's how he got started in paranormal research. But so on a certain level, while I don't doubt that there are entities that can interface with our reality, some of which may have mixed or questionable motives, and there are lots of traditions about that. I think that a lot of my personal feeling is that a lot of what we call evil, and like in the case of Annabelle, this
Yeah.
doll, is that if anything is in her, it's because humans believe there is something in her.
So maybe
And
we project something that.
yeah, and I think that people really underestimate the power of their own belief in something that then sort of, and occultism has this theory, they call it, creating a thought form or creating an egregore, that, after a certain number, large numbers of people believe in something, they can create something of that reality in a focused way. But that doesn't mean that it's going to affect everyone. That doesn't mean that the doll itself did it, because the doll itself is just a doll. It's like in the same way that, a tarot deck is just a collection of cards. It doesn't have to me, it doesn't have any more power than what you put into it, but
Almost like like a fetish.
kind of, I mean,
Yeah,
in a way,
in a
in a
sense,
way, in a
yeah.
way, I mean, in a way. And so I do think that from a cultural standpoint, um, if people believe in believe enough in a particular doll behaving in a certain way, I think that it might, but it's not because of the doll itself. It's because our beliefs create an energy that permits that to coalesce in a certain way.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, that's just, and this isn't just a theory. This is based on my experience with haunted things.
Uh-huh.
And knowing people, having really dear friends, and even spiritual teachers who had certain kinds of psychic or occult abilities, and kind of watching things that happen to them, around them, being actual witness to actual poltergeist
Uh-huh.
activity, things
Mhm.
like that. So it's not like I'm just talking out of my head,
No, you're making perfect sense to me.
I mean, Annabelle is not going to affect everyone. However, if a lot of people believe that Annabelle might affect them, then it might. And then it might be a good idea to keep Annabelle in a certain place, just because people have already fetishized her, as
Yeah,
you would put it, to a certain degree.
yeah.
But and I've had experience of like objects that they weren't haunted, but through ceremony and ritual and belief and prayer, they were imbued with a certain kind of energy, and that was intended for them.
Hmm.
It was intended for them. And then when that energy or that object is sort of taken out of the context in which it was intended, then that energy can do really weird things. That's why in like Tibetan Buddhism and in certain types of Hinduism, when they have these statues, um, that have been commissioned, that have actually been christened, and as they put it, their eyes have been opened, so that the deity form, can be seen through this material form that it occurs in. That's why you don't just take something like that and just stick it in a museum. you know um, you're really supposed to decommission those things before
Yeah,
you
yeah,
stick them in a museum,
yeah.
because there can be a residual energy there. It won't necessarily affect people negatively. It
Hmm.
depends, but people can have reactions to it. And if you are a person who is experiencing something of another culture that has that surrounding it, and you don't know exactly what that is, you don't, and it frightens you because it doesn't accord with your beliefs about the world, you can experience it as evil when it's not at all.
Hmm.
It's just different
Yeah.
you know
You think some people are more attuned, more sensitive to things
Oh,
like that?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it's no different than people being attuned to their bodies. I mean, I just had a medical procedure today, and when I woke up from it, the nurse asked me how I felt, and I told her how I felt. You know, I said, and I referred to the parts of my body that had been so affected by the procedure and how they were offended. They were offended at this point but I said it would be okay, but you know that they were experiencing their offense, you know, and she thought that was hilarious,
Yeah,
and she said, well, you know, it's funny, not everybody really connects to their body that way.
I
And
know.
I
Yeah,
and so they're not even aware of like
yeah,
if something's hurting or whatever. And so to me it's real similar to that. I mean, some people pay attention to what's
uh-huh.
going on inside of themselves with their bodies, and some people don't pay attention to anything at all.
Hmm.
They're just sort of in the world reacting to it,
Hmm.
you know. And so yeah, those people are, I think people that are pay more attention may observe other things better, and people that pay no attention are either going to be headblind and not see anything at all, or don't care, or they're going to experience something in a way that they may interpret as negative.
Hmm.
So I mean, this is just my observation,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Okay,
So
yeah, yeah, good.
Definitely. And for some reason, when we've been watching this Wild Boy show, that's some not jackass spinoff show, when they get in pain, I feel it in my meatball. Why is when I see pain on TV, you feel it in that like root section? You're like, what is that? You just got struck by an alligator. Why am I feeling that right there?
well, that I would say that's because that's where you experienced a primordial trauma,
Yeah,
and
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 that's
you know.
yeah. I've not to get into this at all that I want to, but I finished all the paperwork because there's a class action lawsuit in the zip code that I had poisonous water that contributed to testicular cancer when I was 17, and then the neighbor behind me got it. But I just had to fill out all the medical stuff for all that for some class action lawsuit. Hopefully, I get more than $7 in 10 years, but we'll see what happens. They say my zip code was affected.
Hey, we'll have a party there in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
If you get the big bucks. Yeah.
And
Yeah, if you get the big bucks, get the hell off the radio.
it was weird. It was weird because in the paperwork it said the lawyers get 40/60, and I called them. I'm like, "Do I get money?" And they said, "Yes, you get money." But that was just kind of weird, like a red flag. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't trust it. But it's real. But I know how that stuff is, so I'm not like getting my hopes up that I'm going to get. It's funny though. I changed my phone number for their numbers because they had several numbers. I changed it to Meatball Fund on my phone, so when they call, it says Meatball Fund. But I got a cool George Romero story, and then I want you to get to Night of the Living Dead as much as you desire to.
Sure.
And y'all
Love that topic.
And I had Al Going back on, and he's a native Arthur down here in Florida, and he apparently was friends with George Romero. And there was some Bigfoot movie that George Romero was going to do, and a college released some footage of it, and I forget the name of it. They showed like a little bit of footage of it or something like that online. It was a big to-do, and it was a Bigfoot movie that George Romero was going to do but didn't for some reason, and they tell the story why, but they had like test footage from it. And anyway, they asked Al, OWL, Going Back. If you've never seen his books, he writes Native American horror. That's really good. I may have told you about him before, but he was asked to have a scene with a mountain lion in it, and there's actually some Bigfoot like sketches and stuff from it. But George Romero was going to do a Bigfoot movie, so I wish he would have.
Who was the Native American horror guy? What was his name?
Al Going Back, OWL. That's his first name, Going Back. And really good. Like I just saw some pictures on his wall. Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator was holding his book Crota, CROTA. It's one of Al's books, but really good stuff. Really good horror. He's down here in Florida.
Okay. Yeah, if Romero would have done a Bigfoot film, that would have been breaking news. I mean, he would have been a trendsetter with that, just like he was with the zombie movie. So
yeah, God, I wish.
Yeah. We had a chance to go to Butler County, Pennsylvania, to Evans City. That's where they shot Night of the Living Dead. And the mayor, Dean Zinkon, offered to remarry me and my wife at the chapel there. So, but we had to come back. But it's kind of cool, and that was 1968. And I challenge anybody to listen to the first 10 minutes of Night of the Living Dead. I mean, the music, the black and white, the car. I mean, it's just awesome. It's classic.
It's classic.
It works. It's so good.
Yeah, it's
it's so good.
It scared the living crap out of me.
Yeah.
I mean that I saw that film when I was, oh God, I was maybe 12.
Yeah.
And it was one of those movies that like changed the trajectory of part of my psyche. Freaked me completely out.
Yeah. We went out there. We went to the Night of the Living Dead Museum in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Well, what we did is we did a road tour. We went to Kecksburg, Pennsylvania for the Kecksburg UFO Festival. We did that. Then we went to the Monroeville Night of the Living Dead, and then we went up to Evans City and had the guided tour with the mayor. So it was kind of cool. But with Night of the Living Dead, it came out in 1968, and everybody says, yeah, it's about zombies. It's a zombie movie, but ostensibly, as I say in co-region Hoodoo, it was more about what was happening to the country in 1968. And our country was pretty much unraveling with things like the Tet Offensive, the assassination of Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr., with the North Koreans seizing our ship, the Pueblo, with the 100-day Easter riots, where after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, a lot of Black Americans just went crazy. They rioted throughout the United States. I mean, over 100 cities, torched them. I mean, pent up anger, frustration. I mean, what do you do when somebody guns down your leader, And so just a lot of things happened in 1968. And I'll say this, I know, Jeffrey, this isn't a political show, but, if you don't like the politics of 2025, go back to 1968 to see what was happening. I mean, the Republic endured. There was a lot of nasty stuff that we went through. Even the Chicago riots, even, the police state in Chicago, they banned the Rolling Stones Street Fighting Man. They thought that would incite riots. So 68 was a bad year. And we haven't come close to that yet. And let's hope that we don't. But Night of the Living Dead sort of encapsulated all of that horror that happened there. And so, we looked at our society through the images of zombies, coming back to life. So that was pretty much Romero's take on it, or at least my take on Romero.
That movie scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. I actually looked under the beds to make sure they weren't under there. And I think that's the only a horror movie I could say that's ever done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only two movies that have completely freaked me out when I saw them in very different ways. That Night of the Living Dead was one. The other was Eraserhead by David Lynch. And that was a different freak out. I mean, that was a different kind of thing. And of course, I've become later on a huge David Lynch fan. But and George Romero is brilliant. I mean, the movie. I think what is so cool about that movie is that how it does capture the psyche, the kind of interior psyche of the nation at that time, and just including all the race stuff. I mean, it just sort of takes all that and just goes boom, and just lays it out.
Yeah, it's amazing how our country holds together. Because even with whatever, but we're strong. So, and we'll get out of this. We'll get out of what's going on.
And the people, I think the thing that helps people to be reminded of this stuff is to really understand the role that entertainment and culture and things like movies and music and all that stuff really sort of play in maintaining and expressing both the insanity and the intensity and the real values of a moment, you know.
Yeah.
And the United States still has a very powerful entertainment industry in that regard. So,
Yeah.
you know,
In my book, Paranormal Apocalypse, this is how it ends. I introduce a concept called apocalyptic awe. And I claim that we're able to go and turn fear into fascination through exactly what you just said: music, motion pictures, and literature. So what we do is we look at fear through the eyes of fascination and curiosity. We're able to go and conquer, control, quell that fear, sort of like the moth to the flame, the rat to the cheese, the spider watching the fly, all of that. We can conquer that fear. And that's one thing that human beings do. I mean, not just little kids, but us, we watch Eraserhead and we watch Night of the Living Dead, and we're able to see that, from maybe a different perspective, through an entertainment thing. I mean, getting scared maybe and talking about it, but I mean, to be able to go and conquer that. And I think that that's one thing that we do. And I talk about the combination of fear and curiosity. It's really it's one of the combinations that make human beings tick. And I talk about that a lot in Paranormal Apocalypse, and we'll see. I'd very much would like your take on that, Professor Wham and Jeffrey, and maybe we could even discuss that down the line. But I'm really interested to see how that book is going to be accepted, because it's out there. I mean, and I'll be the first to admit it's out there.
Well, right. I mean, to me, you conquer fear, or you transform it, into something else.
Yeah.
By wonder, by investigation, by laughter, genuine laughter, genuine humor, not making fun of people, but genuine, not simply making fun of people, but the way that South Park does it, where sort of the absurdity of all of us is
but with
revealed.
something like the Stockholm syndrome, how would you define that? I mean, when you sort of respect or admire, or you're fascinated by your captor, I mean, the person that's holding you in the dungeon. I mean, what would you call that? What's the mechanism that we control fear? I mean, how do we do that through the Stockholm syndrome?
Well, the Stockholm syndrome is as defined in psychology is actually a very specific thing, and sometimes we misapply it. It's in the classic Stockholm syndrome. It's an individual who has been captured and is held by a captor. Kind of like a child might be trapped by their abuser, like a pedophile, and they don't have the power, they don't have the physical power to actually get out of their situation.
Okay.
So in order to survive, what they have to do is identify with their captor or with their torturer. The difference between someone who has a true Stockholm syndrome, which is a kind of trauma response. It's considered to be and when someone comes out of it, it's actually considered to be a form of PTSD, and there are treatments for it. The difference is that in politics, in a wider frame, what's being told to people is that they are being taught or being convinced to be afraid of things that they're actually not threatened by.
Yeah.
And they're being told that the only choices they have to be free from or safe from, either way, whatever this thing is threatening them, is to follow this rule or this leader or something like that, or to be this way. And what's going on is they're being told a lie. They're being told that they are trapped. They are not trapped. That is not true Stockholm syndrome. It does cause a kind of PTSD. That's more what cult leaders do. Okay. And so the way that you get out of a cult and that's hard too, because cults are I grew up in sort of a family cult, so and I've gotten caught in a couple of cults at different times in my life, so I kind of have some familiarity with this. The way that you get out of that is by something, and it can be a person, it can be a situation, it can be, it can be a crisis of faith. It's something has to show you that you actually have more choices than you've been told.
Mhm.
So something has to break that hold. The only way that someone who is trapped, who has Stockholm syndrome,
Yeah.
the only way they can get out of that is to be actually physically removed from that
Mhm.
situation. And then they have to figure out a way to recover from
Yeah.
that.
So it sounds like
You
what
know,
you're saying is that when we're in that situation, we have the choice of either fight, flight, or freeze. But you're talking about
mhm.
affiliation, about actually identifying with the captor as a means of
Yeah,
survival, correct? Okay. Okay.
yeah, right. And fascisms, and we can talk about, say, Nazi ideology if we want to. Fascisms, really intense authoritarianisms, and China, the Chinese Communist Party is no different from this. Um, they do engage in certain kinds of ideological. They attempt certain kinds of ideological control. There's an author. His name is Sebastian Hefner, and he wrote a book. Actually, he published a book called "Defying Hitler," and what it is it's two memoirs that he wrote. He was a young man when Hitler came to power, and he was just emerging into he had just graduated from gymnasium, and he was just emerging into his his vocation, in a sense, his job. And so that job put him in a certain level in the Reichstag, a bureaucratic level in the Reichstag, and it meant that he was going to be approached by the not members of the Nazi Party, and they were going to try to indoctrinate him. He was of a class that they were going to indoctrinate, not necessarily, kill. And so in his memoirs, he describes the processes by which members of his he was kind of a minor civil servant, basically, that
Uh,
members of his class were taken to these camps, and they were indoctrination camps. They weren't, and he describes in detail how um, how difficult it was because of the insular nature of it. You had to figure out a way of surviving and getting along with your compatriots and stuff. How difficult it was not to give yourself over. You could feel the indoctrination sort of moving into your mind. In fact, the book is brilliant in describing how insidious this kind of brainwashing procedure is, because you're threatened. He was threatened with his position. He was kind of prosaically threatened with his family. There were all kinds of things that happened like that. And then what happened to his father, who was retired at the time, who had just retired from the similar civil service position, like 2 years after the Nazis came to power, his father received a letter that basically said, he's an old man, he has health problems, right? He basically said, that said, you don't have to join the party. You don't have to be a member of the Nazi Party. But if you want to continue to receive your pension and your health care, you're going to have to sign this. You assign this document of affiliation. So if you can imagine people on Medicare getting something like this, what was his father to do? His father, if he didn't sign this, if he was a principled man, whatever that meant, he would lose the very thing that enabled him to survive. So when
mhm.
he tells the story, when his father got that, his father did two things. His father waited, well, three things. He waited till the last day to sign this, like the deadline to sign it and send it in. But he also gathered all of his money that he had saved, and he gave it to his son and sent his son to the UK, where his son became a citizen, to escape that, so
Yeah,
that his
yeah,
son didn't have to make that decision.
yeah,
And he died 2 years later.
yeah,
He was never the same after that.
yeah.
It's like, so, to answer your question, it's like, um, I mean, did this man suffer from Stockholm syndrome? No. He had to surrender a part of himself in order to survive, and it probably cost him his life.
Mm-hmm.
But Stockholm syndrome is a very specific thing. It's and it generally refers to someone who is genuinely in physical or psychological danger in a
Mm-hmm.
situation, and the only way that they have to survive is to
Mm-hmm.
identify with their
Mm-hmm.
abuser. That is very different than what is going on en masse in our country.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a very, very different thing.
yeah.
So
Yeah, in my book, and I know we were supposed to talk about Coleridge and Hoodoo, but what the hell? In
no,
my book,
we can talk. We can talk about that too.
but in my book, Paranormal Apocalypse, I have a chapter on Reverend Jim Jones, and
Hmm.
he preached the Bible. He was good. He was a good-looking dude,
Hmm.
part Cherokee, wore shades. He looked like a Hollywood star, dark skin, nice sideburns. Could really preach the gospel, and he scared those people. He told them that there was going to be a nuclear war, and you better come with me
Hmm.
down to South America, because that's where you're going to be safe. And so when they go there,
Hmm.
talk about being indoctrinated with propaganda, with loudspeakers singing the praises of Dad Jones, Father Jones. He's like the Messiah. He's like Christ, and horrible, horrible stuff that happened there. I mean, he was a sadist. He was just a horrible person. And I really go to town on him in Paranormal Apocalypse, because he's really one of the bad guys that just tried to win people over through fear mongering and the Bible. I mean, what a wonderful combination! And you use the word of the Lord and fear, to
Right.
get people. So,
Right.
but it was a real, and they called it, and I mean, it was a sad situation. Listen to this. I was out in. I was on vacation for a month. I was spending. This is some of my lost years, but I was out in Boulder, Colorado. We spent a week in, I think it was Rock Springs, Wyoming, and no TV, no radio, no newspaper, no anything. We came out of the boondocks. That had to be 1978. And the first information we heard, the first thing, civilized stuff we heard, was that about the massacre in Jonestown. I
Oh,
think it was 700
yeah.
people ritualistically
There's 900.
900
900.
either committed suicide by themselves or were forced to commit suicide. And everybody except Dad Jones, who decided to shoot himself. He wouldn't take the poison with everybody else, but he took the coward's way out. But what a trauma. I mean, what a trauma to come out of the boondocks, out of this wonderful, idyllic little fantasy world, John Muir's, paradise, and then to hear about Jim Jones. I mean, just a horrible, horrible thing. So, that was my
Yeah.
personal experience with that, and that was a bit of a trauma. Just to I mean, it was for all of us, but I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's traumatic to hear about these things, and it's traumatic to experience these things. And the what's happened in the United States is with the nature of our news cycle, and with the nature of our entertainment cycle, and now with social media, we are inundated with trauma all the time. And so it's really, really, other people's trauma, just trauma in the world, although oftentimes not the traumas that we should really be paying attention to, you know.
yeah,
And so what ends up happening is that people are just scared all the time,
yeah, yeah,
scared
yeah.
of things that are actually not in their neighborhoods.
Yeah. Well, look at all the mass shootings. I mean, look at what's happening. And I think one of the first ones was with when Charles Whitman, I believe, he climbed that tower in
Hmm.
1966 in Texas.
Right.
maybe
right.
Austin. And he shot all these people, and he had an arsenal. He was maybe 25 years old, a former Marine. His father used to beat him, so he had that hatred in his heart. And but he had fantasies of climbing the tower, the same tower, and shooting people. And he told his psychiatrist, I think it was Dr. Healy or Dr. Heatley, that he was going to do that. But at that time, I believe there was no duty to warn. You know, the psychiatrist didn't have the
Right.
responsibility to warn people. And Whitman did exactly what he said he would do. He climbed there and he shot all these people, killed a whole bunch of people. So, but that was, that was 1966. And we thought, and then we had Richard Speck that same year that killed all those nurses in Chicago. And then the bloodletting started. I mean, I don't know. It gets worse and worse every day. And we're sort of getting maybe numb to it. I don't know. I mean, I look at something like Gaza being nuked, being destroyed, being devastated. And where's the outrage about that? I mean, man's inhumanity to man, that got to stop. That's the most evil thing happening. So, politics aside, I mean, we are annihilating a group of people and just, and this administration is letting that happen. And that's wrong. And that makes me so angry. I mean, that has to stop. And, anyway, I see some things in the world, and I think that, you either watch it and keep your mouth shut and let it happen, or else you mouth off and say, this is wrong, this is evil, this got to stop. And, certainly with the Gaza and what's happening in Ukraine, that is just like horror that we see every day on TV. I mean, I'm disgusted.
It's a waking nightmare. I was going to ask you about Roger Corman, and I know that Whitman's ghost is part of that chapter, but I know Corman popped up in the Night of the Living Dead, and he pops up quite frequently. How does he fit into all this, Roger Corman?
Yeah, Corman was great. Love Roger Corman. He was like a grade B thing. What he did was he would do like a horror movie, and he would have a car going across the bridge and exploding, okay, as a part of the trailer. Well, in the actual movie, there was no car exploding. He would just use that. So he was like that. But he would use the same sets, like with his Edgar Allan Poe stuff. He would just reuse the same sets and everything. But he was great. I mean, he was really good. And one thing about Roger Corman, I believe it was Follow the House of Usher. It might have been around 1960 or 1964. It was one of the first horror movies. It was one of the best, most successful box office horror movies ever, just because everybody went to watch it. And it was this gothic, romantic horror. And it showed that horror had a that you could make money with that. And Roger Corman opened up the doors for that. It was very dramatic, and it wasn't, the bloodletting that we saw with, with the slasher flicks and all that, but it was something other than that. And, and we went through this before Beatlemania in what, 63, 64, we had Poe-mania, and the world was going crazy with Edgar Allan Poe, gothic, romantic motion pictures that were pretty much brought to the screen through Roger Corman and Vincent Price. And that's just a amazing combination. So love that stuff. I mean, how could you not? Tomb of Lygia, Follow the House of Usher, Mask of the Red Death. Talk about pandemics, talk about AIDS. I mean, Mask of the Red Death is almost like a metaphor for AIDS, for Ebola, for the next pandemic that may happen if we don't watch out. Because I mean, we seem to be gutting the CDC and the FDA and all these organizations that can keep us safe. I understand we're no longer members of the World Health Organization, so take your pick. I mean, how are we going to die? Ebola, swine flu, bird flu, monkeypox. I mean, they're out there. And listen, so far I've been Professor Wham. I am a prolific podcast interviewee. I've been on something like 60 podcast interviews in 2025. I got kicked off of my only one a while back. That was a New York based podcast. And I was talking about my book, Paranormal Apocalypse, and talking about a possible impending pandemic. And with these folks, if you say any key trigger words like Wuhan, China, pandemic, or Dr. Fauci, they go nuts. So they went nuts and accused me of being a government plant me, and she shut me down and shut me off. So I mean, I didn't see it coming, but I mean, I was totally innocent. I wasn't saying anything. I mean, God. So, but you don't want to talk about Fauci or Wuhan. So
yeah, you got to be careful with some of the nuts, those nut radio hosts on the right, for sure.
And I was thinking, Jeffrey, listen, I'm not your manager, but what do you think about this? Jeffrey Wuhan Pritchard. What do you think about that for a stage name?
There we go. Let's do it. I call myself Jeffro Bodine, and then I actually have some scary wig that's blonde, a lady's wig, and then a Jeffrina, and I put that on with a butcher, holding a butcher knife. Jeffrina.
Oh,
But man, your books always have great subject matter, and yes, we have to get you on for the third time and get the trilogy going. I'm looking at Ripperology, and I love stuff about Jack the Ripper. And
I know who doesn't,
yeah, and you got the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I watched this trailer yesterday. If you get a chance, Ridley Scott and Johnny Depp did this trailer called HYDE, and you can find it on YouTube, and it's Johnny Depp as Jekyll going crazy, and I guess he's going to turn into Hyde. But I'm watching, and it was really cool, and he's into the character and stuff. But I thought it was for a movie, but it turned out it's for a graphic novel that's coming out through a place called mechanicalcake.com, I think. But it's like a comic that's coming out. And Johnny Depp, I guess Johnny Depp is in it as Johnny Depp playing Hyde, but it looked pretty crazy. But I've had Jeff Mudgett on. I don't know if you're familiar with H.H. Holmes and all that, and he's related to him and a relative, and had a lot of manuscripts, a book called Bloodstains, and he gets into the theory of Holmes being Jack the Ripper, which I'm not saying I agree with.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
There are some weird things with that seem kind of weird. I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, but what's interesting is that we still have that fascination for Jack the Ripper and what I call Ripperology. And it's interesting because we all have that public persona and the private persona, and then that secret persona. And nobody knows about the secret persona. I mean, we could be serial killers, but you're not going to know. And but yeah, that's interesting. And even with Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we took a look at that dark side. And even today, we're still fascinated by the fact that we have that dark side that we either repress or keep down or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, God, I don't. Yeah, but some of us more than others. But but it's just interesting. And in Co-Regent Hoodoo, I try to take a look at that darkness. That evil, that Jung's secret self. I'm blocking the whatever the term that he used, but the dark side, the shadow side, and but I think we have a fascination for it. And Jack the Ripper is a perfect example. I mean, how many, hundreds of books and movies and songs and everything else have been out there with Jack the Ripper, looking at it every single way, I mean, I think what we need a book that says that Jack the Ripper was a female. I don't think we ever had that.
I like to get into all the Victorian horror and stuff like that. I just saw some commercial Anthony Hopkins did as Hannibal, making fun of Kim Kardashian, some kind of makeup thing, and he had something on his face, and he started doing the whole Hannibal Lecter routine. Anthony Hopkins, but I like the Victorian horror, the old school, and
And what is it about that speaks to you? I mean, what do you like about that? Because I do too.
It's more scary. It's like the stuff that's right in your face doesn't really scare you. Like, I can watch Friday 13th, but I'm not going to watch it 5 million times, which maybe when I was younger I did. But it doesn't really, you see stuff like that, the gore level, it's more like you just feel kind of stunted when you see it. You don't feel anything. But that old school stuff like Hammer, horror,
Hammer,
even Kolchak, we were watching those again recently. all that stuff. It kind of oozes in there. There's some movie we want to watch that's going to be off Amazon. It's like maybe a black exploitation movie, but Sugar Hill. It has like Papa Legba dude in it and zombies everywhere, but the stuff like that, it's more subtle and more just eerie.
Yeah. Are you familiar with there was a X-Files episode called Home, Home?
About the hillbillies, like
that is like the worst show ever. That is so gross.
And it was banned. It was the only one that was banned. And that takes place in Home, Pennsylvania. So we sort of like get off on that, like, I mean, Pennsylvania, the weird state, so
it's like Wrong Turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That show, I happened onto it, like, not the first time it was broadcast, but at one point they did rebroadcast it sort of with a warning, and so I did see it, and I thought to myself, I don't usually think that things should be banned, but this has very few redeeming qualities.
Exactly,
and it's
exactly.
And it also has some potentially racist content, although it could also be a comment on that. You know what I mean? It could. Yeah. It was really disturbing. And not only that, it was kind of like, anybody that knows anybody in the FBI knows that the way that Scully and Fox behaved in that in terms of procedure in that show is wrong. It's completely wrong. So it's anyway.
Yeah, I know. That was
very disturbing show.
Yeah. I remember I had a conversation with an artist, and decades ago there was a I guess it was, what do you call this? Living art. I'm not sure what it was, but it was called, I think it was called the crucifix, but they had a crucifix that they inserted into a jar of urine. And I said to my artist friend that this was totally sacrilegious and wrong, and they shouldn't do that and everything. And she argued for the fact that, well, it's meant to evoke illicit emotions. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was. And we went round and round, and I thought that, I thought that drew a line there. I thought it crossed over a certain line. And so, I mean, what do you think about something like that?
Well, I think it depends on the context. I mean, it's there are types of art that are intended to provoke, and then it just depends on, like, what are they really, what are they attempting to evoke, and then where is this art going to be displayed? Yeah. It might be okay at MoMA, but it's not going to be okay, in a small art exhibit in a medium-sized town in the Midwest. Yeah, so it sort of really kind of depends on what you're trying to do with your audience. Art, I think it's okay to give art in particular kind of a wide berth, just simply because its interpretation is so subjective. Mm-hmm. I did quite a bit of research when that piece of art came out, because it was very controversial. I did quite a bit of research into the artist who created it, and then what his intention was, because he was always really clear about what his intention was. And the various kind of levels of meaning that you could see in it. And he was intending to provoke, but he was also intending to create a kind of a possible way in which some people at least could understand that maybe, because he created this in a particular context, and I can't remember now exactly what that was, but it had something to do with the possibility that some people might actually be treating Christianity or treating Christ or the image of Christ or the idea of Christ in the same way that this crucifix is being immersed in urine. In other words, somebody, we may be pissing on Christ.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes when people don't understand the context of a piece of art, they can misinterpret it. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important whenever I hear, like whenever I hear something, because I was raised very conservatively, so I tend to sort of react sometimes myself to think, even though I'm not religious in an orthodox way at all. And I always, when I have a reaction to, whenever I have an intense emotional reaction to something, this is what I do. I stop and I go and investigate to figure out, why am I having this reaction? Is it just based on expectation or prejudice, or is it based on, what's it based on? So I have to know, like, what the artist is doing, what they are intending, what they are saying about it, who their audience is. Are they just trying to shock for the sake of shocking? Because sometimes people do that, especially in the type of entertainment culture that we have. So, but some of my favorite artists are people who deliberately shock on purpose, like David Lynch, Lady Gaga. It's, people who just go, I take your symbols and I,
I'm thinking of Last Temptation of Christ. I like that movie, but I mean, there was some parts of it I guess I know would offended people, but I still wasn't really sure. Like, I mean, there was some weird stuff in it. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Well, they were offended by two things. They were offended by the sex scenes that involved Christ, even though you came to find out that those were all imagined. Okay. And then they were also offended by the idea that he might imagine those things. And it's kind of like, oh, come on, is he human or not? I mean, it's, and the whole movie is intended to be a series of allegories. As if you know the original writing, of the person who wrote the original.
What was the name of the motion picture?
The Last Temptation of Christ.
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually one of what, and also the way that Christ is portrayed generally, or Jesus is portrayed. He's really what the guy who Martin Scorsese did when he did and he's one of my favorite directors too. Yeah. What he did was he went to the Middle East and he incorporated into the whole situation. He incorporated some really, really old, traditional Middle Eastern / Jewish stuff in, like what they would have done then, along with Aramaic stuff. And he took a story from the Talmud and he worked it in. I mean, he did these really interesting things that, of course, if you don't investigate what he did, you don't know what the hell he's doing. But and so his view of Jesus is that Jesus is assailed by guilt. He's assailed by guilt because he's a carpenter. And what that could mean, we don't know that this is true, but what that could mean is that he is one of the people that the Romans have picked to build the crosses for his fellow Jews being crucified. So he basically sets up, the author sets up this Stockholm syndrome kind of thing, and so what happens with that is that Jesus has a series of breakdowns. He has a series of nervous collapses, and out of that emerges this prophetic voice. And it's just one way of trying to understand, like who would respond to God this way if God suddenly talked to you, like John the Baptist. In fact, the whole scene with John the Baptist in the movie is so brilliant. I always tell people, just go watch that scene, because that whole scene is brilliant, because Jesus comes to John the Baptist because he's having these voices, he's having these visions. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. And John the Baptist is already an established prophet. So it makes sense to go to him and try to figure out like what the hell's going on. And what John the Baptist says to him is, he says, Israel's God is a God of the desert. Yahweh is a God of the desert. So you're going to have to go into the desert to find him. And so that sets up the scene of the three temptations. The three temptations, I think to me, the most radical parts of that film are not the sex part and everything. The most radical parts of that film are John the Baptist, the Three Temptations, which are done brilliantly, and then the whole scene with Paul, where in a vision while on the cross, Jesus meets Paul, and he meets Paul, who had been Saul, reinterpreting his message, and challenging Paul. There's this whole scene where, and then Paul says to him, well, I don't care if you're the real Jesus. My Jesus says blah 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 blah. That to me is like, but nobody objected to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody objected to the sex, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh please, that's really tame. It's really tame. It's always about sex. I don't know why. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm not big into the P cross thing. I can understand people getting upset about that,
Yeah.
but definitely, I know. I wanted to get into a few things from Cole region, and of course we can go wherever we like. But what was Nick Adams in the curse situation, the cursed rebel?
Yeah.
Nick Adams, the cursed rebel. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm not familiar with that much, except what I've seen in the book, of course. But I'd like to hear about it.
I'm from Berwick, Pennsylvania, which is northeastern Pennsylvania, and that was the birthplace of Richard Sharp Shaver, with the Shaver mystery and all that from the 1940s. But also, it's the burial place for Nicholas Adamczak, who was the rebel, and Nick Adams died in Los Angeles of formaldehyde poisoning. Allegedly, he died by himself. His doors had been locked. Nobody could get inside. He died with his boots on, and they couldn't figure out what it was, whether it was suicide or maybe he was murdered, as his daughter believes, for a gambling debt. Nobody's sure. There's some conjecture, but Nick Adams he starred in a number of Japanese grade B sci-fi movies, and he was really a big hit over there. I mean, they loved him. He was good. He made money, and it wasn't that he went over there as a last resort. He went over there because it was another opportunity. So that's what Nick Adams did. But he played with Karloff in I think it was called the Cauldron of Blood, which was a take of an H.P. Lovecraft motion picture. And I just love Nick Adams. And, I see when I go up to the family cemetery, I always see his tombstone there. And so I wanted to put a part there about Nick Adams and the mystery, the mystery of what exactly happened to Nick Adams. How did he die? So nobody really knows, but he hung around with Elvis Presley. He hung around with James Dean. And when James Dean died, and I think was it East of Eden, or no, it might have been Giant. The last movie he did was Giant. And James Dean flubbed his line. So they got Nick Adams, who was really good at doing voices, to do a little voiceover for this James Dean thing. And then when with Rebel Without a Cause, they called it the cursed film because people like Nick Adams, Natalie Wood, Sal Mineo, James Dean, they died. They died tragic lives. And James Dean, for people that don't know, younger people, I mean, he was this smoldering, silent superstar that teenage star that everybody loved. And I mean, he mumbled his words, but he was sensitive and he was young, and he died looking youthful. He died in I think it was Porsche Spider, and on the driving like 150 miles an hour in the desert outside of California, I believe. And but anyway, he died. He flamed out. He died. He didn't rust out. He flamed out. And so people remember James Dean as this young person. He's never was allowed to grow old. So, but Nick Adams hung out with people like Elvis Presley, James Dean, Sal Mineo, Natalie Wood, all those people. That was the first rendition of the Hollywood Brat Pack. And, and they hung out together. When Elvis came to LA, Nick Adams was there to show him the ropes, to introduce him to people. I mean, Elvis, well, even though he looked good and he sang good and was making lots of money, he was pretty much a bit of a hick. He was just a hayseed. He was very shy, didn't have a whole lot of social skills. And Nick Adams and Natalie Wood took him around, introduced him to people. So that's what they did. So Nick Adams really, although he doesn't get the notoriety that and recognition as he should, he was an important figure during that realm, and he's in Coleridge and Hoodoo, for all of those reasons.
And we got about 40 minutes. Are you good for that? Do you need a little break, or what did you want to do? Because I don't remember if we discussed time or anything.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we might be able to cut it a little bit short. I was having back spasms all day today, and I'm wearing an ice pack, and just I don't know what happened, but yeah, if we could cut this a little bit short, that would be good for me. So you let me know.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll do about 5 minutes or 10 more minutes or something.
Okay, that'd be cool. Yeah, and I apologize for that. I'm usually
It's no problem.
Okay.
I had a bad accident recently. I was out in my backyard, and there was a hole in front of a building, and he put some paneling over the hole. So for some reason, I stepped on the paneling, and the door, like my foot went into the ground, and the door went over the top of my foot, and it was hard. My foot's still purple from it, like the whole top of my foot. It was like a knot. Like, my God, it was horrible. So I understand pain, unfortunately.
I don't know what happened, but it was a spasm. But anyway, I have a hot tub, so I get in the hot tub and then put on the ice, hot tub ice. So I've been doing that all day, and that's and taking.
Well, I definitely want to get you back for Paranormal Apocalypse, so I may have to shoot you a November date, because we got a lot of days off. Like Halloween's a Friday, so we're not doing a show. And there's been holidays, so it's been less scheduling. But that would be your third time. You're entering Micah Hanks territory now. You're getting up in the numbers.
Yeah. I do want to say before we end, Professor Wham, I really enjoyed our conversation, and you're a Wham. You articulate. You have a great body of knowledge, and you articulate well, and you're a wonderful attribute to the paranormal realm. So it's really good to meet you.
Well, thank you.
And hopefully we could, banter again. But I mean, this was good stuff. I mean, I love this. And, I mean, it's nice to meet somebody who expands your parameters, who gives you more depth and dimension. And then you tend to do that. So, thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. And before we let you go, I want to ask you one thing about something off the cuff. Did you see that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch episode where Bledsoe and his daughter go down to Florida and the Everglades and summon the stuff, and then he gets put in the copper tank with the Monroe Institute and all that?
No, I did not see that.
That's in the second season of Beyond. But
okay. Yeah, let me check that out. That sounds
it's getting crazy. I know we talked about it last time. It's definitely some spookery going on.
I'll tell you this though, where I live in Florida on the Gulf side, I am so close to the green swamp and to so many places where there's hundreds of acres of maybe unexplored swampland. So there's plenty of places for for a skunk ape to be hiding. So doesn't.
I'm interested about how the ranches are picking up this activity. And there's a lady named Katie Page, and she's on that show. But she has a book, if you look her up on Amazon, it's called Love and Light, which at first I'm like, I don't know if I want to read that. But it's actually with Leo Sprinkle somehow, the ufologist that's like an epic kind of dude. It's all these letters she got about UFO contact that I guess they may be kind of a positive vibe. But she's connected to one of those ranches, and she's actually putting out another book about the ranch situation. But I'm just interested at why ranches. Like, that seems to be a big prevalent thing and beyond. And there's something, I guess, because it's just pure land, like pure earth, and that's where the ranches happen to be.
Yeah. Maybe
that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to talk about. God, I love doing this stuff. So anyway, in closing, I want to say that I like to fully endorse Mr. Jeffrey Wuhan Pritchard and the good work that he does.
for the politically incorrect work that you do.
Yes, thank you.
So,
We appreciate it so much, and we'll get you back, and we'll definitely appreciate it. We hope you feel better, and keep us in the loop for sure.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. This is great. And again, if anybody's interested in contacting me, they can do it through my website, www.maximfurek.com. And again, maximfurek.com. So thank you so much, Jeffrey and Professor Wham. This has been really a lot of fun and just a great chat. So thank you for the work that you do.
All right, take care.
Well.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM New Orleans. And I watched the Ozzy funeral, and it was, I didn't watch all of it, but I saw him when they got out of the car and stuff, and it was sad, and
Yeah.
I grew up with Ozzy. I got sent to the principal's office for a T-shirt with him being crucified when I was younger in ninth grade.
Ozzy helped introduce demonology to the world. I mean, he made it cool. And when he had his last benefit concert, that concert was bigger than Farm Aid and Fire Aid together.
And it helped a lot of people. Yeah, different.
He still got draw. He got pull. I mean, man, amazing.
Right.
And then he died. But yeah, he still had it.
He went out in a blaze of glory.
He really did. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Maxim. Take care of yourself, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Have a great. Thank you, folks. Okay, thank you, Professor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Yeah, I watched the funeral, and they stopped and got out of the car and crying and stuff. And there was a lot of people going, oi, 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 out there in the crowd in Britain. Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy. But I grew up with Black Sabbath and all that. I'm definitely a powerful artist. There's also a cool Jack Black doing Mr. Crowley with these young kids. That's amazing. Those kids are kicking some ass doing that. It's on YouTube. It's Jack Black doing Mr. Crowley. But the kids that are playing the instruments, it's just like spellbinding. I don't know how old they are, but they were kicking ass. Those kids.
Yeah. At my gym on Wednesday, well, I guess it was Monday actually. We usually watch paranormal shows when I'm at the gym with my trainer, but this time we very specifically asked Spotify to do nothing but Black Sabbath, like old Black Sabbath, so we were listening to like the entire Paranoid album, It was
good.
great. It was great.
Wizard. I love it all. Wizard. I love that song, Wizard. And I like them all. But yeah, some powerful stuff. Definitely. That was some of the music that I got introduced to when my dad died and I started hanging out with the Wild Kids and we were doing drugs and stuff and Black Sabbath and Ministry and all that stuff. And it was definitely playing in the background for sure when we were partying all the time. But I still listen to Black Sabbath and Ozzy, and it was good that people judge him or whatever. But I mean, all that money just went to Parkinson's and, so that was amazing. And what I've seen, mostly he was Christian. He wasn't really a satanic. He was just kind of playing into it for theatrics a lot, I think. But definitely, and then Hulk Hogan. I didn't realize there was so much weird racist stuff about Hulk Hogan. I didn't know that until I ran into it. I'm saying the N-word and stuff and some audio, and I didn't even know about that, but there's been some other people who croaked. I can't remember right now, but can't keep up with it.
Yeah, it's hard.
And so you did see the South Park episode or not yet?
I have not yet seen it. I mean, I plan on seeing it. I just, there are so many things, going on, and I had a short week this week because I had like a 2-day prep for this procedure, so that's sort of what I was really focused on, and so it's like I'm feeling better than I did, so I hope that'll last, but that's like I've got a list of things that I need to watch. There are like a lot of podcasts I haven't seen either, and I need to watch those. I've also been rewatching like all the Stranger Things, and getting ready to see the final the final season, which is
Nice.
coming up in October and November, I think.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. I've seen it all except for that final season, but
Yeah.
been watching Twilight Zone. That's been good. First, I looked up all the westerns, and those are all like really weird wests. Like there's paranormal stuff in them, but then kind of just flipping around all the Twilight Zone episodes. But there's some crazy stuff in there for back then. It gets nuts for sure. God, a lot of aliens. That's for sure. Paranoia and who's a Martian and our neighborhood's been taken over by aliens. A lot of episodes like that. So back then, that's crazy. There's some crazy stuff in there. But yeah, I like the Weird West episodes. There's about 5 or 10 or something like that. Then Resident Alien's been really good, but I was sad that they're canceling it, even though I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly why, but it's on the 4th season, and the guys knew it was happening, so he's actually going to do a good send-off for it. But it seemed like it was doing well, so it's just weird. They cancel everything lately. It's like you don't even want to get invested anymore unless you know if there's enough seasons around, because they'll cancel it.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's like even on, yeah, I mean, and this is just part of the whole CBS Paramount BS, but like the latest, the only real Star Trek that is available right now that is new is Strange New Worlds, and it's been really, really popular. It's kind of like the best of all the new Star Trek shows, that Paramount has done, and they went ahead and renewed its it's in season 3 now. They've finished with season 3 and they're in the process of broadcasting it, so that's done. But and they renewed the seasons up through season 5, but then announced that after season 5 they're going to cancel it. So it's kind of like that's weird, I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean like each season now is going to have only 5 episodes? What does that mean? And it's kind of like CBS as connected to Paramount, that they claim it's all financial, but the truth is that they are cutting some of their most popular shows, and you know which one I'm talking about. They're cutting shows that make money for them, and so it can't be financial. It just can't be. And I don't think anybody believes that it is.
It's weird. I've noticed it started with that Hannibal show that was amazing. They did 3 seasons of it. It was award-winning, like 5 stars. Mads Mikkelsen played Hannibal Lecter, and Hugh Dancy or whatever played Dr. Graham, or the cop, the FBI dude.
Right.
And it's amazing. But it had like 5-star reviews, but for some reason people didn't watch it, so they axed it. And Doom Patrol, that was really good, but a lot of mergers happened, and then they axed stuff. Like that Doom Patrol was like this crazy DC comic with like misfit superheroes that are really a lot different than your normal superheroes. They axed it after 4 seasons. It's just like a trend now. They got Chucky. That series was actually good and doing well. Axed it. That was crazy, though. The last season of that was him in the White House, and he killed the president. He's like at the nuke arsenal. Like, it was really crazy as hell. It was, and Jennifer Tilly's in it, and like all these people that have been on, Joe Pontiolano, whatever from Sopranos was on it, and it was insane. And it was getting good reviews, that they just kill them. I don't know. It's weird. You can't trust anything. There was a J.J. Abrams HBO show, Duster, that was in the 70s about the car Duster, and it had the dude from Lost, Sawyer, in it, and a black FBI lady, and she was like controversial because she was black and an FBI agent and dealing with racist situations, and it was really good. Keith David was like the villain dude in it. I just saw he's getting a Hollywood star finally. That's really cool. Keith David, he's in it, and his whole family. It's like the Black Mafia, but it was a good show. After they killed it, 1 season, bam, they'll kill it in a minute. One show that's pretty good that I need to finish, that they've been, I don't know if it's coming back or not, it's called Evil. And it's got a guy in it. He was in 6 Feet Under, African-American actor. I can't remember his name. He's been in a bunch of stuff. But there's a lady in it that's pretty well known, but they basically go around to see if people are possessed or not for the Vatican, and it gets really crazy. And there's a little creepy guy that's a demon in it, and I know he was in Lost, but that show's pretty good, and I gotta finish it. But what else? Murderbot's been really good, and that's from these books by Martha Wells, and one of the Skarsgård's brother is like the cyborg robot sci-fi in space, and he loves like Star Trek soap operas, and it'll show you scenes from them, and he's like obsessed with them. But he's also a murder bot, and like will go crazy and kill stuff to protect the people that he's with. But he seems like he's losing reality and might attack the people he's with. So it gets really crazy, but it's kind of funny. It's funny too. So it's like they're like 20 or 30 minutes a piece or something. But I've been watching that. There's a show on there that's Severance, where they cut your mind so you don't remember work when you're at home, and that has Christopher Walken and John Turturro. They're gay in it, which is really weird, but it's a great show. That's their prerogative. I never thought I'd see John Turturro and Christopher Walken though gay in a movie, but it's a show. But that's really good. I got to watch the second season. But I'm just skipping around. A lot of stuff you just don't even want to because they ace it.
Yeah.
They shoot it down from the sky. But I'm really hoping the South Park thing gets into Epstein next. That's what I'm sure it will at some point.
At some point, yeah. At some point,
that's gonna be, because I've actually seen now the FBI say they rejected his name from the list, and now they're moving that Epstein lady, to another prison. So she's either going to get whacked or pardoned. Now they're saying he's going to pardon P. Diddy, or thinking about it. It's just crazy. The biggest thing is it's like he's some kind of thing off Lord of the Rings that's just blighting the land and draining everyone, like the rotten king. Like you can just feel it. Just
Yeah, I know. It's like I've had to just really sort of divorce myself to some degree. I mean, at least a little bit every day, just from all of it, because if I don't, I mean, I participate in various sorts of resistance, but if I don't really get dragged into the doom scroll, and then I'm completely useless to everyone, including myself. It's,
There was a thing on Apple, Tom Hiddleston narrating. That's pretty good. I've been watching that. So they got these cameras. I like watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it helps me. I pay a lot on in the weather and nature and, animals and plants, and he's here during the summertime, but the humidity has been so bad. It's been so bad. It's been far worse than usual, that it's really, I mean, there were a couple of days, like not this week, but like the week before, that I don't know. I just thought I was going to die. It wasn't like, I mean, the temperature itself was only like maybe 89 or 90 or something, but it was like the humidity made it feel like 112. It was like, oh my God,
That's pretty much here. It's like you can't even go outside, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Summer's going to get to where you don't even, it's too dangerous to go out. And there's constant warnings that are very much saying that it's dangerous to go out there from the sun. Like there's been some crazy warnings, and I don't know exactly if it's just from the heat or probably radiation or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, we get warnings, and then when it does rain, like it started raining then yesterday, it rained so hard, it's that everything floods. Like they had flooding in Queens, a flash flood in Queens, and in New Jersey on the Jersey Shore. I mean, it rained really hard here. We didn't have, I don't think, any flooding here, but it was just, it's like, you can't just have like a nice summer thunderstorm and then it cools everything off and then it's cool for it's like everything that happens has to wreck stuff. And that's probably a reflection of like just what we've done to the world, how we've wrecked the world. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna wreck us back.
There's a new comet that's called Comet 3 I Atlas C2025N1, and they're all freaking out about it, saying it's like alien tech, and these scientists are saying it's enemies that's going to attack us in November, and this is like all in the like USA Today, and is this an alien comet, alien technology, and they're all going crazy over this new comet, which probably BS, but just in case, letting you know. In case there's a Mars attack.
Yeah, I like this new comet theorized to be alien probe.
Probes happen. There's a chance.
Well, if it is, it is. You know, if it is,
pretty
it is.
Crazy. Like there's a lot of paranoid banner about it. Reminds me of Hellbop and all that when all that crap happened.
Yeah. Well, you know, and who knows? Somebody might, you know, start a cult about it. I mean, in fact, let me pull up Google Gemini and say new comet. Prophetic.
Cut it out, Blackie. Gosh. But yeah, I haven't really. I only clicked like one of those articles. I saw the headlines. And it was definitely a lot of weirdness about alien technology and stuff. If only it'd be so interesting for aliens to invade us and attack us. How neat would that be?
Oh, here's a good one. Yeah. Comet of the century. A sign. Okay. Yeah. Preacher. Yeah. It's a cultural anxiety surrounding comets and new stars. Truth about the wormwood prophecy in Revelation. Oh well, you know, somebody will create a myth around it.
Yeah, give it time. Eric sent me some of his book to read, and I'm reading it slowly but surely and giving some feedback. It's pretty good. I like it.
Eric who?
Eric Grimsrud with the Trump stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He sent me some of the chapters, and
so when are we going to have him on again so that he can prophesy for us?
Oh, he's been on so much. We have to wait for Trump to croak, I guess, for finally to get him on again. Which maybe soon, if that's the comet Mabus that we're talking about.
If it is the comet Mabus, yes.
We'll see. But who else I got coming? Next week is Scott Pelzer. He's like doing a paranormal project, kind of a down home country roots paranormal kind of thing. I think I'm not sure exactly, but I met him on Kickstarter, and he just kind of does like paranormal things. But I figured I'd give him some glow, get him on air and give him some light to talk about his project. And I don't think he does very much radio, so it's kind of one of those like you know, what is it? Homegrown.
Right.
But August 15th, Derek Rook, that's Gore Shriek comic. I need to check back in with him. It's a crazy comic book. That'll be Jay. Jerry Avalos is coming back on. That'll be Jay. Anthony Fusilla, that's Jay. And then Michael Winkle, that's Paranormal. I need to get the PDF for that to give to you. I don't think I did it. Mike Hacker, he's coming on for a book.
Yay!
And then Michael Kowalski with the Jim Willis Bigfoot book. That's you. That'll be the 3 that you're doing in September. September 26th, Steve Rother. That's some kind of like light beam channeling book about the group called The Group. Ernie Altbacker and Josh White. That's an Area 51 funny comic book. David Goodsward. That's a Lovecraft paranormal, some Florida stuff. Tyrone Ellington. That's an African-American gentleman from Mark Eddy May sit in, and kind of like ancient aliens and stuff like that. Sounds interesting. I've been talking to Tyrone and Mark in email. The 24th, Jacoby Matot. That's our Halloween official show. He's got a car like Christine and has a hearse, and he put out a comic called Pumpkin Guts, the Hellbound Halloween that he's been working on for like 1,000,000 years, and it's finally out. He's trying to sell it to Image and Dark Horse. It looks really good. Uh-oh, what was that?
Oh, it was my phone just went off for some reason. My phone does that every now and then. I'll pick it up and it'll start playing something.
Cool. He does a lot of cosplay, like dressing with vampires with his wife, and goes to Hirsch conventions. So talk about the Christine car and just all kinds of stuff. So he's going to be kind of our flagship Halloween guest. 31st, no show. Then you come back the 7th. That's Richard Estep. That's a ghost book from Invisible Ink Press. Then I'm still scheduling, and that's it for right now. But there's a dude that asked me on from Gremlin Report, LW Marshall, that's listened to an interview of mine and something about superheroes. I don't know if I told you this story. I don't think you were here yet. A long time ago, I did a written interview with. Oh, you were here for that. But a long time ago, I did that interview with Amy Wallace about the Carlos Castaneda cult.
Right. Exactly.
A written interview.
Right.
And, I brought it up with those women about shamanism because she mentioned him or whatever. But I went to my spam inbox on Facebook, and there's a dude sitting there asking about that interview that's making a whole documentary about her in that situation. And he didn't even hear that show.
Oh, my God.
And it's sitting there, and I talked to him. His name's Jeffrey with a Geoff. And I gave him the interview. He thought it was like a radio audio. It was written, and he might use it. I don't know, but he's looking for more stuff. But he's doing a whole he may come on the show sometime when that documentary's done. It's about the whole Carlos Castaneda. But I have that written interview. I found it. I posted it on Before It's News for some reason a long time ago. It was kind of messed up and janked up, but the picture was gone and stuff because I guess it's been there so long. But I actually copied it and deleted it there, and then sent him a copy and said, you can feel free to use it and hopefully get some plugs in. If they use an excerpt, I don't know if they're going to or what, but he said it was really good and it had a lot of great stuff in it. So hopefully somehow they can incorporate it. I don't know exactly how, but because it's not a radio, but that was a weird interview with her. I mean, it was good, really good, but she got into it, the whole Carla. She lived with him. Like that book's
Right.
That book's crazy. Have you ever read it?
No, I haven't read it, but
Really?
but I do know of a couple of other people who I've met in other circumstances that either lived with him or were connected to people that lived with him, like they were their children or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the controversy. It was a good interview. It was useful in a lot of ways, but I mean, personally, because of the practices that I do, I personally have problems with what they do, and how they present it. So, and to consider Castaneda an authority at this point is very problematic.
Yeah, there was a lot of it. Was it fiction? Was it even real? And it was well written. It was really good to read, but was it even real? No one even really knows, do they?
Right. Well, I think that there are serious doubts that a lot of it was real. I mean, he had access to certain kinds of anthropological information because of his own academic background, but he never completed some of that academic work, and there is some indication that the shaman or the medicine guy, the wizard, however you want to refer to him, who is supposed to have given him all these teachings, that person either did not exist or is an amalgam of several different people or teachings.
Yeah.
So,
I think, they definitely don't think it was real. I mean, maybe I doubt it, but it was good to read. And Wayne Dyer would bring him up at all the time. All these people kind of like idolized him and stuff. So that was,
right.
I think that book pissed off his followers and very controversial. I don't know who is Irvin Wallace. Do you even know that's her father? But I mean, is that someone you're familiar with? I know isn't he like a famous author or something?
Irvin, how do you spell Irvin? IR?
IR, yeah.
IR, Irvin. What was his last name? Wallace?
Wallace. That's her dad. It's like some famous. I've heard of him, but I don't know if I could.
It's Irving Wallace. That's who it was. That's who I was thinking about. Yeah, he was known for his heavily researched novels, many with a sexual theme.
I know that. Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and okay. What I'm
her dad forced her to meet him or something. Like there's some weird story like that.
Right. Well, the title that I'm most familiar with is The Sins of Philip Fleming. That's the and that's the title that I'm most familiar with. He was married to Sylvia Wallace, a former magazine writer and editor, and she wrote. Oh, listen to this. I'll just read this. This is from Wikipedia, and I'll just let you think about things. Her first novel, The Fountains, this was his wife, okay? His first novel, The Fountains, was an American bestseller and published in 12 foreign editions. Her second novel, The Empress, was published in 1980. She and her 2 children also helped him to produce the Book of Lists and the intimate sex lives of famous people.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. What does that mean? Right?
She gets into a weird sex cult, probably.
Yeah. So, he might have been a kind of interesting fellow.
Yep, I'd heard of him, but just through her mostly because I read the book. I have a hard copy of the book, and I read it, and somehow it's one of those interviews you were surprised that you got to do somehow. And just a bunch of written questions and her telling personal details about it. And he said, I think they might use it, but I don't know how you would do that. I guess you could just say, Jeffrey Pritchard had this in his interview, and here is the excerpt, and da-da-da. I guess that's the only way you can do a written interview in a documentary.
Yeah.
Quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's going to come on at some point. He also does a lot of weird, I don't know if it's weird, but there's a picture of him hanging out with like a medicine man from Aztec, or I don't know exactly, but it was like one of those shaman medicine dudes with feathers and stuff all over him, look like from South America, and he's interviewing him. So he's done some other neat stuff like medicine men and stuff. But it's pretty trippy. That's a good book if you ever get interested, but you may not. But I don't know if I'd read it again. For some reason, I'm always thinking of a book by Norman Mailer, Ancient Evenings. I don't know if you ever read that, but it's really good. I want to read it again. It's like kind of like Egyptian mythology is the best way. Like Set is in it, and Horus, and all that stuff. But I'd like to read that again. That's a big one. That was huge. My copy looks like it went through hell, got chewed up by alligators in the Nile. But I would read it again. But some of those old neat books, I'm fixing to have to go through my books and thin them out some. A lot of them is just stuff they send you from publicists that you don't care about, and I'm going to just donate them or something.
Yeah.
Not really worth selling. I mean, you don't make much money on books these days.
No, print books. I love print books. I'm old school, and I do listen to some Audible books, but I just really like the whole dynamic of sitting down with a book and reading it. It's just me physically reading it, and nobody does that anymore, and if you purchase a book, you're not going to be able to resell it except to someone like you. And so then you have to find them.
Shipping, all that.
Yeah.
They send a lot of books, like weird political books and just stupid stuff, like spy thrillers and crap I don't even ask for. They don't do it like they used to, but God, for a while, it was like crazy. Just buttloads of stuff. Andy sent me a ton of books that are weird, just on all kinds of weirdness. A lot of conspiracy and stuff about money that's weird and just weird. I'm still going through those, but I'm not getting rid of those, but I'll get rid of the stuff they send me that I don't want from publishers. Send you some weird space opera, the 4th book in it, and it's like you're supposed to get all the other books. Like, why didn't you send me the other books? I didn't even read those, never even heard of this. But I know one thing is cool that I forget the exact name. I can look him up, but there's a book put out called Paperbacks from Hell, and it's a dude that basically is chronicling all the old horror paperbacks, and he
Oh
puts
wow.
pictures of art from the covers in the book, and it's the books and the covers. But I noticed now on eBay, if you put paperbacks from hell, all these people are putting it on horror book lots to try to get rid of them, when some of them probably aren't even in the book. But the book's really cool, though. It takes you on a journey in the history of a lot of those old books and shows the artwork. The artwork is the greatest part of the book, too. Just all that art from those books and stuff. That's really good and neat, crazy stuff about all kinds of stuff. But yeah, with no show on Friday on Halloween, no way. Plus, you can't even get a guest to do that. You can't even do a
Yeah, well,
guest.
well, exactly. I mean, and you know that since we finally have a Halloween that is like on a weekend evening, you know that that's going to be it's going to be a fun time, you know.
Be good dogs. Edgar, don't try to hunt barking dogs. But anyway, got about the animals been acting crazy. Like they just seem bark at anything. Just more, I don't know, nervous or something. I'm sure the weather isn't helping any at all. So they can't stay. They don't. They're inside anyway. They only go out to use the restroom and stuff. I couldn't imagine leaving a dog out there. It's just like a death sentence, and I know people do it. Just leave them out there, and man, it's like you're leaving your dog out there during the day is just like you might as well just shoot it. Odd, just horrible. But Edgar's still a brat. She's worried that one of the dog he got the American Bulldog pregnant, and I don't know if she is, but it seems like some of her nipples seem bigger, and I don't know. I hope to God she's not. That's all I know. He seemed like he couldn't reach when he tried. So unless he snuck and she laid down at some point, it's the only way. But we definitely need to be more careful in the future with his butt. But every time he tried to do it, he was like, "You missing the mark, buddy." He tried to do he'll come up to a dog and try to do it on their head. The female try to hump their heads. It's like, what are you doing? Man, what are you, little Ron Jeremy from porno?
Yeah,
Calm down, bro.
he wants an OnlyFans account.
I've never seen anything like it. Like, dude, are you possessed with a pan creature? Like, that's what he reminds me of, one of the little satyrs that would run around with pan or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. But all right, everybody, you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Next week, was that Scott Pelzer I said? Yep, I just checked in with him. So everybody stay safe out there. Everybody have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Thanks, Wham. Thanks, Maxim. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. But yeah, just got a couple of minutes left. Sure you check out churchofmabusradio.com. You can go to our Facebook group. That's Church of Mabus radio.com, and you can check that out, and you'll go straight to our group on Facebook. Facebook's been laying down weird bans on me, and they don't even tell you why. I can't share to a group. I can't share to my own group. And the only thing I've done is share to my own groups. So, and not even that much. So they have some weird glitches going on or something. I think Russia done took them over or something. But anyway, y'all have a good weekend. Good night, everybody. Take care.